The party's over on the Buccaneers. They did not fire the cannons as the Commanders win the NFC wildcard game on Sunday night. The franchise's first playoff win in 6,945 days, but who's counting? Joe Gibbs was the head coach of a team known as the Redskins. Yes, they were known as the Redskins the last time they won a playoff game, and now the team with the dopey name Commanders will face the number one overall seed, the Detroit Lions, in the divisional round. The better story is in the losing locker room, so that is where we are going to focus, in the losing locker room. Let's start with the quarterback. If you saw the game, you know why. We're starting with the quarterback. So where did things go wrong for Baker Mayfield's Buccaneers? Where did things go wrong here? So I've got vending machine, Peter Principle, and sleep score. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a nice cigar. You can get really good cigars. I mean, Tony Bruno used to work here, and Tony would say, you go to Tampa, and they have those great Cuban cigars in Tampa. See, that's where you get them from, right there. All right, so sometimes when you kind of process everything going on in a certain segment of the sports world, sometimes the questions are easy, the answers are hard. Other times the questions are hard, the answers are easy. But this time, the questions and the answers are simple. The real ones know. If you watched the Sunday night game, the script flipped in the fourth quarter. Baker Mayfield played relatively well for the Tampa Bay offense. Wasn't great, but relatively well. However, he did the thing you can't do at the time you cannot do it. He went to the vending machine, and he got a candy bar. It was a Butterfinger, because Baker Mayfield, as we've said for many, many years, most games are lost, they're not won. And this is a classic example. As the Buccaneers were set up, the Bucs defense had forced the team formerly known as the Redskins to turn the ball over on downs. They got the ball back deep inside their own territory. They picked up a first down. Mike Evans picked up a first down. So now they're starting to matriculate the ball down the field. At least they feel pretty good at that point, Tampa Bay. And they're nursing a 4-point lead. So at that point, you get a field goal, you're up by a touchdown. You're not going to lose, most likely, unless the Commanders come down, score a touchdown, go for 2 at that point. And then it happened. Baker Mayfield had he had a cough. He coughed up the football. He botched an elementary play, a handoff to wide receiver Jalen McMillan. Simple, basic football play. If you're a professional quarterback making tons of money, you should be able to make that play every single time. The ball ended up on the grass. The Commanders, the linebacker, former Ram and Seahawk Bobby Wagner, jumped on it. Fumble-rooski. He jumped right on top of it, and 4 plays later, touchdown Washington, and the script had been flipped. It was rewritten. The game was not lost at that point, but it set things going the other direction. Now, a lot of you say, well, momentum. Well, Bucs had all the momentum. There's no such thing as momentum, you dummies. Does not exist. But Baker Mayfield does get a nice dunce cap for that mistake there at the end. Here's Baker explaining the thing that went wrong at the time it went wrong. Take a listen.
Just some dumb stuff today that cost the team. So it's that's going to wear on me for a while. First one all year that happened on. So obviously timing of it not great, being backed up. Defense had just done a hell of a job getting us the ball. Another 4th down stop, and unfortunate, but that falls on me.
All right, now the other storyline here for the Buccaneers. What are the chances that Todd Bowles is out as coach of the Bucs? So they made the playoffs. You can't get rid of a coach when they make the playoffs. Well, you're going to fire Todd Bowles, but can you encourage him to step aside? So I'm going to set the MALLER odds that Todd Bowles is out. Dunskies as coach in Tampa Bay. I'm going to set the odds, MALLER Sportsbook odds at plus 225. That implies a 30% chance. Another way to look at this, in baseball, it's a 300 hitter. In baseball, you have a 300 hitter, you're feeling pretty good you're going to get a base hit. Now, it doesn't get a hit all the time. 7 of 10 times you don't get a hit, but 300 batting average. That's where I am. There has been a grassroots movement to have Todd Bowles step aside, to retire, to get some ceremonial position in the Buccaneers organization. Now, remember, the Bucs did this with their last head coach. They kind of forced him out to retire. And so there is a precedent there. The critics have pointed out they do not like that Todd Bowles is from the old country, that he's not one of these new coaches. He's a throwback, no-nonsense type guy, and a product of the Peter principle, where he has been promoted because he was on the previous coaching staff. He's been promoted until he's reached the highest level of incompetence there, and he's remained there. And then you have the Komodo dragon in the room, the clock management issues. Bowles botched the clock multiple times in the wild card game. It was a dereliction of duties, clock management. At the end of the first half, the Buccaneers, Todd Bowles led over 10 seconds run off the clock. The Bucs had reached the red zone, so they only had 17 seconds by the time they called the timeout. Now, he got bailed out by his team because they ended up scoring a touchdown. So if you get bailed out, people are like, well, that doesn't matter. They scored a touchdown anyway. Okay, fine. But he did the same thing in the second half of the game. Jaden Daniels and the team formerly known as the Redskins were trying to milk the clock. It was kind of obvious that their goal was to, at least in a tie game, either kick the game-winning field goal or at worst go to overtime to run out the clock. Milk it like it's a cow. And that was the plan. But they got help from Todd Bowles, who screwed that up. He was obtuse yet again when it came to the clock, and Bowles let more than 10 seconds run off the clock there as well. And the Washington football team did end up getting that field goal with a couple seconds left. Tampa never got their hands on the ball again and lost out as time ran out. Let's hear. I want to hear the second bite here from Bowles. Let's hear the second one. Here's Todd Bowles. Now, he's talking about the future and what things are looking like for Tampa Bay going forward. Here's Todd Bowles on that.
Great core group going forward. Very optimistic about those guys. Just got to keep people healthy, add to it, and clean up some spots, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, keep in mind, no one stays healthy all the time. No one stays healthy. I mean, you're not going to announce I'm leaving right after the game. This is something that will come out in the coming days. We'll see. And Todd Bowles, I like Todd Bowles. He's an interesting cat. So I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's a nice dude, and I think he's entertaining. So that's all I care about. I have no skin in the game. All right, now, last word to the scheduling department now, where Tom Brady will be in the Fox box that rocks for the Commanders-Lions game next weekend. The schedule has been announced on who's calling what game, and people are up in arms because Tom Brady's calling the Lions-Commanders game. Now, why is that, you ask? Because if you haven't been paying attention, Ben Johnson, the glorious offensive coordinator, probably fall on his face as a head coach, but Ben Johnson's the hottest person at the bar right now in the coaching carousel bar. And so Ben Johnson is a top head coaching candidate. Tom Brady owns about 10% of the Raiders, who are looking for a coach. Tom Brady has been deputized to help find said head coach. So will the NFL step in and remove Tom Brady as a broadcaster for the Lions-Commanders game with this upheaval because of a conflict of interest, because of Brady's work with the Raiders and the coaching job being opened up? So I'm going to shake my head no. I'm shaking my head no on this one. And the NFL uses a special app. Like it's one of those sleep score type app things to track the sleep patterns. If you track the NFL sleep patterns, the entire operation in the NFL, the whole league, is about as incestuous as you can get, right? And metaphorically speaking, of course, they're in bed with everyone else, and we've talked about this a lot over the years here, and so there'll be a lot of noise. People will write pieces on social media, look at me, Tom Brady shouldn't be calling the game, blah, 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 blah. But Brady will be allowed to broadcast. He's been allowed to broadcast all year. They put some rules in, which makes it easier on Brady because he doesn't have to even pretend like he's doing any homework for these games. He can just roll in there at the last minute, no production meetings, none of that stuff. And he just shows up, calls the game, throws a bunch of cliches out there, the Jimmy and Johns or Joes or whatever, and this, that, and the other thing, gets out of there. And they probably figure, hey, it's going to increase the ratings, which it will not. I mean, we did learn without any reasonable doubt that when Troy Aikman and Joe Buck left Fox to go to Monday Night Football, the ratings did not suffer on Fox. It didn't matter who called the game. My fat ass could be there calling the game, and if it's a Cowboy game, people are going to watch, and if it's not, people aren't going to watch in the same amount of numbers. That's the way that works.